morning, everyone. This is Nathaniel Lee. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening to our show each week. Today, we have outstanding cast of presenters today. I got Attorney Milton Grime, famously represented Martin Rodney King, but it led to the evolution of videotaping of police misconduct, which has been an evolution in our society. Also, we have the attorney, Vanita Banks, superstar attorney, masters in tax, cyber security expert attorney. And so I'm so pleased to have such expert lawyers with us today. But today we start out, there's so many different legal things hit the news each week. It's hard to keep track of them. But the most interesting thing I thought that hit our community was the Trump interview this week with the Black journalist. Attorney Banks, that was up in your town. What happened?
It was held in Chicago, the annual National Association of Black Journalists meeting. And the former president was invited to participate in the meeting and to be interviewed. But there was a big controversy over his participation and attendance. In fact, one of the co-chairs of the event actually stepped down and refused to participate on the eve of the interview because she said she didn't even know that he was going to attend, and she was not wanting to support his attendance at their annual meeting. However, apparently the NABJ president, Mr. Lemon, approved, and the interview was just very, very chaotic. There were 3 African-American female journalists, one from ABC that began the questioning. It was quite a question, right? And Attorney Lee, you tell us everything that was in that question. We were just talking about it.
Well, the question was, in a nutshell, was former President Trump was asked the following. First, you've basically called African-American women journalists stupid and different names. You made a history of making these racial type comments, like you questioned President Obama's birthright. Even Nikki Haley, you questioned her birthright. So you go through these whole issues of racial bigotry, and yet you're seeking support from the Black community. Why should we support you, since you've demonstrated that you've been basically racist? And then Trump's response was, that was a nasty question. You're a nasty person. And that dialogue sounded familiar to me because he said that to April Ryan, the White House correspondent. And so it just went off the rail. I think it was like 32 minutes. And he made a series of false statements during the interview. But most glaringly, he went back to the racial playbook. He is now saying that Kamala Harris, the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, who's running for president, who raised over $310 million in 2 weeks, never been done in American history, just recently said she was Black, despite the fact that she joined AKA, African American sorority at Howard University. Despite the fact that she's always run that, he started making things up, and he went back to the racial playbook, and that's where we are now. It's shameful that a person somehow could be the nominee of a major political party in the United States of America in 2024, and their only platform is to try to attack the person based upon their race, not their background, not their experience. But Counselor, the presumptive nominee, Harris, really had a really good comeback. Basically, she said the prosecutor versus the felon. I think that characterized the race, Milton.
I would imagine, and Vanita, well, you're going to respond to it anyway, but I would imagine this gives her a lot of fodder or fuel for any debate that's coming up. Give her more even, since he was directly asked some very informative questions about his feelings or how he looks at African American or Black people. This even gives more ammunition for that discussion. That's just my comment. I didn't see the debate.
Hey, Attorney Banks, here's my problem with what counsel just said. How do you debate a person who doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie, who simply makes up facts or alternative facts? I don't understand. I don't get that. I mean, when you debate somebody, if they have some integrity, they try to have facts or evidence right. But this person, when he debated Biden, I didn't see anything he said that was accurate. I don't understand why they didn't attack him then.
I would have responded to that, Nate. When we are in trial, we ask the question, and if the answer is far off what's correct, you got the evidence of the truth. I don't know. You guys just got to take the time to fillet him.
You have to dispute him point by point by point.
Take the time.
And I think absolutely, Milton, you take your time, you dispute him with the facts, point by point. And as a prosecutor, she's well suited to do just that. That evening, obviously, President Biden didn't have a good night, obviously. He wasn't able to refute him. We didn't have any real-time fact-checking being done. Maybe that element can be introduced into a future debate. But she's got all the facts. And my position is that regardless of what he says, she'll have her points, her bullet points of what she wants to say, right? So he can say, the sky is blue, and she can say, and you're a 34 count convicted felon. So I would stick to her arguments.
Yeah, his pattern.
Right.
We got to have a good referee or judge. They got to either shut his mic off after he finished, and the audience won't hear what he's saying, and just rebut it. You got to have the controls set up for that.
Well, I'm thinking like at the NABJ conference, after 30 minutes, he left. I'm thinking that she may be able to get under his skin to the point that he may walk off the stage.
Yeah, if you're doing right. I mean, we face that in the courtroom all the time, Nate. Not all the time.
But in the courtroom, you have a judge usually that control the flow of evidence and the conduct of counsel.
Right.
Here, I remember when he debated Biden in last presidential election, he went off the rails.
They didn't control him.
Yeah, it hurt him, but the point I'm making is that I was concerned that if you have a moderator, my problem with the entire process of how they cover candidate is a significant flawed process. And here's what I mean. The pundits and the reporters, they cover Biden exclusively based on saying that he was unfit to be president, and they would talk about every gas that he made, and he made some. But right. Trump made just as many, and never once did they say Trump is saying these crazy things, and they gave him a pass. And I didn't see neutrality in terms of reporting, and they don't correct him. Like he says recently this week, I would have basically done a better job of releasing the hostage. Well, he forgot that Paul Whelan was arrested in 2018. He was the president. He did nothing to free him. Well, Biden freed the guy. Now,
Right.
Trump probably mad as hell because he's saying he's incompetent, but he was able to put together a very elaborate plan to release hostage, not just Brittany Griner, for example, but a guy that was in prison under Trump. And so, with that said, they then news station allowed him to spin that. I watched part of it, regrettably on Fox.
Would imagine there was some debate between the camps, Putin camp and Trump camp, as to this release coming before the election. Do you know the reason for that? As to why they did it now rather than after the election, in case so that Trump could take credit for that?
Well, I think that what I've seen is that they've been working on this for 2 years.
Yes.
So they tried to get Whalen out back in December of 2022 when they got Brittany Griner, but it was unsuccessful. Trump wanted someone that he needed for his own usage. He had his spies that were important. And so because of that, I think that Putin needed a win because, let's face it, his war in Ukraine is not going as planned.
Okay.
He's lost so many men in that battle. And what saved him in that Ukraine is that there's some restriction on the ability of Ukraine to go into Russia to bomb their airstrips and things like that. If they were able to do that, I don't know, it maybe escalate the war, but it also would take him off the playing field potentially. So he needed a win also. And I thought that Putin needed that now versus later. And by the way, and based on the polls dramatically flipped in this presidential race. It's all hands on deck. And Harris raised $310 million in 2 weeks.
Unprecedented. Double what the Trump campaign raised. Back to the prisoner exchange. I was thinking about that too, Attorney Lee and Grimes. Why now?
Right.
Number one. And number two, and I was thinking that those Russian prisoners must have been very, very important to Putin for some reason.
It just seemed for two buddies like that, for him to give Biden and Harris
that victory.
It's suspicious, questionable, or surprising to me. That's all, Nate.
Me too at this time. And I'm thinking we'll probably hear more about the details and what went on behind the scenes in the upcoming days.
Well, Trump will probably take some credit for it after he figure out how to do that in the next week or so.
Well, I remember back in the NBA All-Star, the vice president was scheduled to come to Indianapolis. We were doing an event for her in Indy, and she was called to go to Germany. And so they theorized that part of the process is that back then they were trying to work out plans because it's a multi-nation swap, and it required collaboration of nations. And so they were able to get the deal done by getting other countries to give up Russian spies in exchange for release of America. Now, but my concern is this. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I don't know why America thinks it's a good idea to go to Russia in the first place. I don't get that.
I agree.
Well, at one time it was kind of, I won't say a safe haven, but a lot of our intellectuals and people went to Russia back in the 30s and 40s and found some more freedom there than they had here in this country, if you remember.
That's true.
Yeah, we've had an interest in Russia. Russia has treated us, I guess, because of the political part of it. You look what we do for y'all. But yeah, we'd like to go to Russia on occasion.
Okay, before we get started on the next subject, our call-in number is 833-653-3529, 833-653-3529. And speaking of freedom, that leads into our next segue, what the main topic today is that Project 2025. And for our audience, it was a project by the Heritage Foundation that was aimed to control the federal government. I've been reading through that Project 2025 this week, and I was trying to cover it, but it's a 920-page document, and I couldn't get through all of it. So what I did was able to do summaries of it. But in a nutshell, political pundit says that what they're proposing is tantamount to a dictatorship. They're trying to consolidate the federal government into the hand of the president. Like, for example, the president be able to hire and fire all federal employees. The Justice Department will be beholden to him. And there was a series of matters within that Project 25 that I thought was just crazy type stuff. But the council, you guys have a chance to review any of the aspect of this Project 25 yet?
I have not, to be honest. I was going to be relying on Miss Vanita to share her summary with us.
Well, I haven't yet read the 900 pages, but I would highly recommend that all the listeners on this call go to the Indivisible website, majorityovermaga.com, where you will find really excellent resources regarding Project 2025. It breaks it down. You can read the 900 pages if you desire. What I'm looking at right now is a document that's entitled 25 Things to Know About Project 2025. But as Attorney Lee said, it is the playbook, actually the transition plan mandate for leadership for a new Trump administration. It's just mind-boggling. It would end reproductive freedom and gender equity. It would impose a national outlaw. It would impose a national ban on abortion care and end medical abortions. Attorney Lee, I know this is an area that is important to you. Will roll back Title IX protections in education against sexual harassment, assault, and gender-based discrimination. It would consolidate the federal government, if you will, under the president. There's something called Executive Order, what is it? Schedule F, which gives the president the power to fire career service federal employees if they're not, quote, loyal. And this whole playbook would enable him to stack federal agencies with Trump loyalists. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's just so important for us to spread the word regarding the threat to our democracy that is laid out for everyone to see in this Project 2025.
What's scary about it, Counselor, is the allegiance to white nationalists. And we saw them in Charlottesville, Virginia, as to what they stand for and what they're trying to do. So they're trying to basically use those type of folks
chip on the bill,
run the federal government. So Pierre Pullen,
right
you have a question coming for us today, sir.
Yeah, I got put on hold when you guys were talking about the exchange with the hostages and everything. But the only thing I wanted to say about that was I think Putin wanted his assassins back. The CIA, we wanted our journalist spy back. Gerskovich, he's CIA all the way. I'm thoroughly convinced. And we wanted to have those avenues open when we get ready to negotiate an end to this Ukrainian war. So I think it was a masterstroke by the Biden administration. And like the vice president said, that's what diplomacy does. What we need to do now is go for a deep dive and get everybody, these 18-year-olds and everybody registered to vote, because we have to do a deep dive and get these congressional seats together. So the vice president can have something to work with when she's elected, because I think she's going to win. But like Milton, he's got a race up there in northern LA County with this Representative Garcia, this Mike Garcia guy. If we do a deep dive into these congressional races and try hard, we can get rid of people like that. And that's what we need to do. They can make a lot of inroads by, Mike Pence threw us a soft one and he posted that video. All they got to do is play that video, and that half of the Trump's staff is not even supporting him. And so that's what I wanted to say. The NAG, the National Association of Black Journalists thing, that turned out to, in my opinion, to be a godsend, because it just proves that Trump is crazy. So, that's what I wanted to bring up this week.
Well,
Yeah.
there were both sides of this, because publicity, good or bad, somehow it seemed to help him, in the sense that if they paid attention to him, the 34 felony conviction that Donald Trump was convicted on by a jury of his peers there in New York City, the charges were the same as Michael Cohen indictment under 5, 6, and 7 of Michael Cohen indictment. So in other words, the Trump Justice Department, by August of 2018, prosecuted his former lawyer for committing a crime for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was fine with his lawyer going to prison for a crime that he had done. So the point of that is that that publicity, even though it was a terrible thing, somehow didn't hurt him. He had the congressional people, senators there in Manhattan, saying that these are trumped up charges. And they completely ignored the fact that the charges were so bad. Then why did he put his lawyer in prison for the same crime? And so,
Does one of the callers need to put their phone on mute?
hey Pierre, your phone is put it on mute.
Am I put it on mute? Okay.
Yeah, there's a radio or something in the background.
Nathaniel, my observation of this is, we just finished a major lawsuit with the Trial Lawyers College that I've been involved in for 30 years, and we've split, where the founder who founded this organization in 1995 and the majority, just one, we decided to go separate ways for whatever the reason is. We won the lawsuit. We got motions that were in our favor throughout the lawsuit. We settled the lawsuit for a monetary value that they had to pay us, the other side. But I swear, if you look at social media and if you look at today's YouTube and whatever else social media aspects you look at, you would swear the other side won. They are going back, spending old interviews of me when I was on the other side and loving the other side. They are presenting themselves. The spin is, we survived. They're not saying that about the lawsuit, but if you were to turn it on and look up their program and our program, you would say they won. They won the lawsuit. So my point in saying this is the Civil War. Some people still believe it was won by the South. Many people you talk to today believe that. They think General Robert E. Lee was a national hero. Winston Churchill said he was the biggest hero in the history of mankind, and he was a traitor to this country. So my point in saying this, and excuse me for being a little bit excited about it is that it is the spin that is getting us with this Trump stuff and how he's looking. He's going to spin, if we don't get on top of it, what was done at the Black journalists gathering of 32 minutes. If his people have their will about it, it will be spun. They'll show just the one little bit where he was the one appeared to be on top or something. The spin. And if we don't get more involved with the spin of what we are about, then they are going to win with the public view of it. The same with Biden. You talk for months about Biden needs to, or his staff needs to put forth his accomplishments, things that he has done for the public. They never quite fulfilled that desire of ours. So this is war. And if we don't fight the war in the media room like some people do, we're going to lose what we do conquer. That's how I feel.
And back to Pierre's point, he's absolutely right. This is a national election, but we know that control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, it's going to come down to a small number of states. And so there are 18 high priority House races that we should be very, very focused on, as well as the top 3 most competitive Senate races. And then, of course, we have the swing states that we need everybody out doing something, actually multiple things, from knocking on doors, from participating in call banking, what we're calling, we have to educate, activate, and mobilize, actually get the vote out on election day. There are 7 states that have abortion ballot measures that we should be very, very focused on as well. So we're at a crossroads. We've got, a choice to restore abortion rights in our country and actually protect our democracy, or a MAGA government, which we have this 900-page playbook, Project 2025, which will implement on day one a dictatorship in our nation.
Yeah. Okay, Pierre, pull in one last comment, sir. Go ahead. Pierre? Okay, I lost him. Okay, we'll go to Kevin
Okay,
Griffin.
Nate, I'm here. One last thing she needs to do, and she needs to talk directly to white people and these white Trump voters, and just remind them, this guy is crazy. And I know they're not going to listen, but deep down inside, people, they may lie to you in your face, but they know the truth. And we need to try to cut into the Republican voters who are going to vote for Trump. The choir's already sold. We need to try to get some of them to come to our side. And she needs to address it to them because, their Social Security and everything else is in play. And thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you. And that was a great comment Pierre made about the congressional race. I concur that was a really good point he made. Let's talk to Kevin Griffin. You have a question coming for us today, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Great.
Hey, yeah, my comment is, have you guys had the chance to look at John Bryant's interview with Stephen A. Jackson? Stephen A. Smith. John Bryant of the Hope Project.
No, I didn't see it.
Please. I sent it to AJ. He's looking at it now. I promise you, if you watch that video, watch that interview, and I guarantee next week this is what y'all be talking about. It's awesome. It actually changed my mind on a lot of things about this election, and the content that he put in there. It's unrefutable.
What was so profound about this interview that somehow influenced you?
Well, he's a multi-billionaire, self-made billionaire, and he breaks everything down on demographics and the things he's doing with his whole program and the whole project about getting people financial literacy. And he breaks it down by political parties, and he said, talk about being divisive, and being divisive is not going to get it. We all going to have to be inclusive. And a lot of things that, especially us as Black people, are starting to come out on in this election about the illegal immigrants and stuff. He was saying basically not that they should come and we take care of them, but we need everybody from the bottom up. Like I said, once you look at the interview, I guarantee, man, it'll blow your mind. Everybody I'll send it to, they send it to 15 or 20 different people.
Stephen A. Smith.
And I got guys. Yep, Stephen A. Smith and John Hope, I think his name John Hope Bryant. Even the guys out that were diehard Republicans. Catch up.
I'm familiar with John Hope Bryant and the Hope Project.
Yeah, and the people that I know that were diehard Black guys that was for Trump, once they watched that, they was like, oh man, this has kind of changed my mind. And like you said earlier, the Democratic Party has a terrible branding and message. I don't, it's almost like it's done on purpose. It doesn't make any sense. We shouldn't have to be explaining what they're doing. They should be explaining to the American people what they've done and what they're trying to do.
Kevin, let me make something clear to you. This is something that's very important, because this is a big criticism, particularly of the Biden administration. I'm on their email list, and I get about a dozen emails a day. All their accomplishment and things that they do, they put out on the internet every day. This president has accomplished more than anybody during our lifetime, right? But like Milton was saying, it's the way that the news media spin things. So, for example, the Biden administration has the historically lowest Black unemployment rate during our lifetime. The wealth of Blacks in our nation have gone up. The crime rate that they talk about, they fail to talk about the financial crime went up with white Americans, things like that. So when they talk about Black murder, they don't talk about the fact that the white American commits suicide at a much higher level than the Black murders. So in other words, it's the spin that Milton talked about. And so when people say that they're not putting forth information, they are, but it's not being podcast.
Or they put it, it's where they're putting it out there. I mean, I have to be on an email chain to get it. They need to be on commercials. They need to be on the radio stations. They really need to be putting it out there. If you listen to, like you said, it's a spin. Even the people who call themselves Blacks for Trump, they're going for the spin. He keeps putting stuff out there, whether it's on X, Twitter, whatever it's called, social media. He's bombarding you with. By the time you figure out it's a lie, it's another one already circulated. So it's too late by that time. People have already got that narrative in their head, and it's about the feeling. Right now, people feel like it's worse. They're worse off than what they were. But people don't understand the economy. They don't understand that this is a global recession, and we're doing better than most countries. So it's people, they're not educated. So you have to phone speed these people and educate them. It's sad Kevin, that you have to do that, but you have to.
Hey, Kevin, the American economy is the best economy in the world right now. Not we're doing better. We're doing better than everybody. Number two, everybody forgets something very significant. It's almost like we forget about what happened. Let's just basically cover this just for a couple minutes. During the Trump administration, we had the worst pandemic in American history. We had people dying every day. Thousands of people were dying every day. And we had a president of the United States thought that you could cure COVID by injection bleach into your system. He was too dumb to realize the bleach would probably kill you faster than COVID if you did that. So we had a series of that. And then we had the Black unemployment rate got up to 16.9%. The economy was going to crash. And so we had to put a massive influx of cash into our economy. So people were given money to stay at home and not work. Now, that caused a rise in inflation. And so what happened is that because of the pandemic, this was necessary in order to make sure our country recovered. And so people complain about inflation and they forget about the fact that what was the cause of this problem to begin with, Kevin. And then historically, what did Biden do? Well, we got rid of the problem. They came up with a network system. Everybody was able to get shots. We have people that are post-shot, but basically vaccination is what saved us from dying from COVID. And so at the end of the day, we ourselves forget about the history we just lived through for the last 5 years. And somehow people thought they did a good job. They're just dead wrong.
Attorney, I understand, but think about what you just said. None of that's working. I think a lot of things I keep hearing are personal attacks. They talk about him being a felon. At one time, I was a convicted felon. So that stuff doesn't move the needle. You have to go on you got to go on policies. You can't just go on the personal attack. That's what he wants. He wants you to personal attack him. You got to go on policies. And people, they're just not educated, attorney. They're just not. I mean, look everything you just said, and people still are not getting it. It's because of education. People are not educated. If it's not TikTok, you got to get people in sound bites now. You got to be 30-second sound bites from TikTok and stuff like that. That's how people are learning. That's how they get the information. It's not an hour long like that video. I ain't gonna lie, it's an hour and a half long. But once you get into 15 minutes, you're not gonna be able to turn it off. People are not engaged like that. It has to be quick. We live in a microwave society where everything has to be right now, instant gratification. So you got to figure out how to get people where they are. Some people like you, who's an educated man, you get it. You understand how to dig down in the weeds and look at policies. Most Americans don't do that. They looking for right now, instant gratification. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now. People don't want to read. They don't want to look at different alternative news cycles. They want to look at what they look at, and that's it. And then with him, that's what he's doing. Him and his minions and his people and the whole Republican side, that's what they're doing. They're bombarding you with, even if they're lies, half-truths, they're bombarding you with it. So if I can bombard you with enough information to boggle your mind, I got you.
And they've been a master at that. They've been a master at that. I agree with you, caller. I mean, 10 years ago, maybe not even 10 years ago, we didn't even have a term called, quote, alternative facts or misinformation or disinformation. This is a relatively new phenomenon, right? Those weren't even words in our vocabulary. But I agree that the Republicans have always been better at spinning the narrative, right? They start with a false premise and they build on it. The caller's absolutely right when he says they are masters at just short sound bites. For example, they state that, okay, immigrants are taking your Black jobs, right? Now we've reversed that. We've flipped it. We've created a new narrative that is working when Simone Biles says, yeah, this is my Black job, right? That's very, very powerful. But I agree with the caller on the points that he's making. We've got to get to the grassroots of our communities. We need to look at who are our surrogates. Like you say, Attorney Lee, I get 10, 20 emails a day. I know exactly where the vice president is every single day. I know what she's doing from the time she gets up to evening because we get those communications. But when Black men were interviewed recently and they were asked why, one of the reasons why they supported the former president, their answer was that he sent me a stimulus check.
Vanita?
He put money in my pocket. What do you think, Milton?
Well, it's a new term, the alternative facts, but it is an old play.
Ploy.
Given a new term. This thing goes back to the big lie. You remember that? You may not remember that because it was before your time, but
I remember.
Russia was known for the big lie. But when I read, it's in a book, 13 Stripes, I think it is. It's about the Revolutionary War. How this country started was with a big lie. Franklin and Lee and Washington and them, they made the public feel that the slaves were revolting against their masters and raping all the young white girls, and that the Native Americans were killing the frontiersmen and drinking their blood. And they would print in their 2-page newspaper coming out of Massachusetts, going all the way down that eastern seaboard, the big lie about what was happening internally to the 13 colonies to make the colonists join together and fight against England. It was perpetrated on the big lie. The foundation of this country was built on lying to the public, to the rest of the people. So it's just another manifestation of it, and the use of now this technology we have which is social media, but it is an old playbook, y'all, from what I've read about history.
Excellent points. Excellent points, Milton.
Well, Kevin Griffin makes some excellent points, and the only thing that I disagree on is that Trump got away with a bunch of crime, and if any of those things that Trump did, Kevin would still be in prison. Like,
it's the spending of it, though, Nate.
Yeah, a federal judge say he raped a woman in a department store. I mean, all these outrageous things. And how do we know he did it? Because it came, even recorded saying he did it all the time. In the Planet Hollywood tape. Okay, Miss Perry, you have a question coming for us today, ma'am.
I have a comment. How are you?
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Everybody says Trump is stupid. I don't really believe he's stupid at all. I think he's sitting at the core of white America when he says, let's make America great again. We as Black people, we know what he means too. But he's spreading fear, this fear that Black people and minorities are going to take over. So we have to protect ourselves. We have to defend ourselves. And that has been going on for decades. The fear that minorities are going to attack and destroy, he uses that. He doesn't have to have any more agenda than that. All he has to do is pump his fist in the air and tell white America, let's make America great again. And they're using their own ignorance, their own fear, and they're allowing racism to play a part in why they're doing what they're doing in white America. And they're going to destroy democracy if we don't stop them. And I just want to say, too, not only stop, we need to vote not only for Trump, but for the Congress, the Senate, the House, on the federal level and even state level. We need to vote Democrat and get those men out of there, because those men are pro-Trump and they know what he's doing. They know exactly what he's doing. So I don't agree that he's stupid. When he was with Putin, I think they discussed how to make a dictatorship in the United States. I really believe that when we weren't allowed to be in there, when he was talking to Putin, he knows exactly why he's doing. That's why they're so friendly. I really believe that, and that started in the incest of his mind even before he became president. So he knows what he's doing. I don't agree with anybody that says he's stupid. He is not stupid at all. He can just do that, and that's my comment.
He's playing to fear.
Playing to fear. Same thing they built this country. He's playing to the fear that's ingrained in their minds.
I agree with the caller.
Yeah, the caller got a good perspective on this. But I also think that what they've characterized as being a little bit weird, and I think it is, because one thing they pointed out is that the guy never laughed. It's bizarre. You don't see him laughing and as though he's having a good time. It's always a negative type of ordeal. I remember when Trump was president, every time they would ask him a question that required an answer that may not have been a good observation on their behalf, he always attacked the questioners, always attacked. If it was African-American, he would say, "You're a nasty person." He would just basically characterize them. And I mean, I'm thinking, where did he get that from? You're a nasty person. I mean,
well, that conduct and that behavior is shameful. And what has bothered me is that we normalize that behavior, that lack of civility, that lack of respect. And I think that our vice president is well positioned to make those points at every stage of the next 96 days. It's disrespectful. The American people deserve better than that. And I mean, when he first came down on that escalator, right? And when he started spewing hate and negative missives, hate and fear against Hispanic people, that they were, I'm not even going to say what he said, because it's just shameful. You know, and the fact that we normalize that behavior and that it's not being, as you state, Milton, totally rejected every time, you know, by every media outlet. It's just absolutely shameful.
Yeah.
But people buy into that. 2015 was the first year that more minority babies were born in this country than majority babies. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion in the workplace for the last, 30 years, that evolved from affirmative action to diversity, then diversity and inclusion, that stokes fear in white Americans.
Yep.
And so the president, the former president, through, as the caller said, Make America Great Again, he's intentionally playing into that fear.
There are 65
Minorities are
million.
going to take over this country, but what it is, we've become a multicultural nation, and that's what makes us great. Look at the Olympics, the diversity there.
And you know what? That's an excellent point. American exceptionalism is based on the fact that we are diverse. When you look at the Olympics, you see these elite athletes. I'm so proud when I watch the American win the bronze, silver, and gold medals, and just give me chills to see how we get together as a country and we're the best in the world. We're going to get more medals than everybody else in the whole world because we're the United States of America. You know, we're a country with diversity, and we have people that contributed to our country. Let's take one additional caller. Caller, you have a comment for us today, a question.
Hello.
Hello? What's your question or comment today, sir?
This is Guy calling. I just agree with what has been discussed earlier. I think what we have to do for this election coming up, we have to, what I call, clown-proof the election. And by doing that, what we need to do, I think, we have to come out with facts because we know that the other side is not necessarily going to rely on facts. So, and this is not just the United States. As you probably have heard, what happened in Venezuela election. You know, they are running into the same kind of thing about claiming the election is not fair and that kind of thing. But it's around the world. So I think we have to really clown-proof the election because if the Republicans win, they're not going to accept it because we know they didn't accept it last time.
I don't understand the term clown-proof. What the heck you mean by that?
Clown-proof.
Well, the January 6th invasion of the Capitol, I call that by clowns. And the fact that they didn't accept the outcome of the election, I call that clowning. It's kind of like a term that is more or less a ghetto term in a way, but we have to make sure that we have the facts out there. There's no slip-ups and that kind of thing. That's what I meant by it.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Well, my prestigious host, we're towards the end of our show again today. Any closing comment? Attorney Banks first.
We have to continue to spread the word about the threat to our democracy, which is laid out in Project 2025. I agree with the caller that stated that Vice President Harris needs to speak with Trump supporters and make clear that the 2025 plan is going to impact them adversely. Major reductions or even the elimination of Social Security, Medicare, and food assistance programs like SNAP, school lunch programs are threatened and laid out to be either eliminated or major reductions. There's a plan to just gut Medicare and Social Security, eliminate that $35 cap on insulin. And so this plan will adversely affect all middle income and lower income citizens in the United States. And I'm sure we'll continue to have this conversation, Attorney Lee, about how this plan, ending the Affordable Care Act, for example, denying people health care with pre-existing conditions. And I say we're just not going back to Jim Crow days, because that's what this plan espouses.
We got to somehow develop the bullet points like the gentleman referred to, soundbite for the young and the old and the disenchanted to sit down and take the time to sit down and explain to them how Project 25 is really the going back to Jim Crow days, racism to its best. We just got to help educate people that these things are lies and they're wrong, and strongly urge people to go out and vote. But I guess, Nate, it's incumbent upon us who with some education, various degrees of it, to take the time and explain to people what's happening in our country, rather than saying, you stupid because you don't agree with me. That's not going to get them, because he's caught the attention of a lot of our young people, especially in some of our special groups within our race, that he's the one, and he's not the one. So we're going to have to find a way to communicate with them that he's not the one.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to our show today and our callers. We had some excellent callers. And the thing that I'm really most proud about is that we have some of the most informed and educated callers of any show in the country. Our callers keep track of the news. And I'm just proud of the fact that they're able to distinguish between the misinformation and able to focus on relevant issues. So thank you very much, callers, for your participation today, and I thank our superstar panel. And join us again next Saturday as once again we deal with legal issues of today. Thank you, everyone, and have a blessed weekend.